Hi, and welcome to the Men on the Path to Love podcast, the More Than A Paycheck, Why Being the Provider Isn't Enough Anymore episode. I'm Bill Simpson, your host. I coach men who are done suffering in their relationships, men who want deeper love, real connection, and to finally feel like themselves again. I help them become the best version of themselves and for their current relationship or the one they're ready to find, so they can live the life they love. Now, this episode is a topic that I've touched on before. It's something that's deeply ingrained in many of us as men. Why being the provider isn't enough anymore. And let me be clear right from the jump. Being a provider absolutely matters, no doubt. It's honorable, it's meaningful, and for a lot of men, it's been a core part of our identity. But when providing becomes the only way a man measures his worth, it can slowly undermine his relationship and his sense of self. That's why I chose to cover this topic again, because I see this pattern all the time in the men I work with. And frankly, I've lived it myself. Yeah, there was a time in my life when being the provider felt amazing. I was the co-host of a popular radio morning show, solid six-figure income. I felt proud, confident. I was secure in my role as a husband and as a man. Providing didn't just pay the bills. It gave me a sense of identity, validation and a sense of purpose. And then one day, everything changed, man. After almost 12 years together, my radio partner and I were told our contract would not be renewed. And just like that, it was over. And so was that hefty six-figure salary I was bringing home. And I landed another radio job, but it wasn't the high-paying morning show I was on. And suddenly, here I was, no longer the main breadwinner in my relationship. And man, it rocked my world. My sense of worth took a hit. My understanding of what it meant to be a man was shaken. My ego was crushed, and I panicked. Now, what's important here is this. It wasn't my partner at the time who made me feel less than. It was me. I had unconsciously, mind you, based my value, my masculinity, and my role in the relationship almost entirely on what I earned. And it took some time, of real reflection and grieving to get in touch with that loss. And eventually I realized something that changed my whole perspective. I had so much more to offer in my relationship than just being a provider. And that realization is one of the reasons I do the work I do today. And research backs this up. The American Psychological Association, APA, and their guidelines for psychological practice with boys and men on male role socialization, it shows that many men are conditioned from a young age to equate worth with productivity, income, and achievement. In other words, do more, earn more, provide more. That's how you matter. But consistent relationship research, especially from the Gottman Institute, shows something very different sustains a long-term relationship. And it's not income. It's emotional responsiveness, presence, not gifts, but being present, trust, and having shared meaning. I want to share a story about a former radio colleague of mine. I'll call him DJ. Not his real name. DJ, man, he worked nonstop. Long hours, doing extra appearances, nightclub gigs, and so on. And whenever his wife Cece, not her real name, whenever Cece complained about him being gone so much, DJ would just justify it by saying things like, hey, my work pays for our house, your jewelry, our exotic vacations. Because in his mind, he was doing exactly what he was supposed to do as the provider, right? And what he didn't realize was the emotional cost of it all. Over time, Cece felt lonely. She felt disconnected, unheard, unseen, and eventually she ended up having an affair that lasted a couple of months. DJ was gone so much, he didn't even notice the signs. Well, one night, DJ came home early from an appearance, and Cece wasn't there. He called her repeatedly, no answer. When she finally came home, he asked her where she had been. And she told him straight up, "I was with someone I wanted to be with." She admitted the affair. Now, as you can imagine, DJ was furious. He told her that he was a good provider, that he never strayed from his relationship, and that he didn't deserve this. And Cece looked at him and said, "What did you expect? You were never home." Well, DJ stormed out of the house and went to a hotel for the night. And unable to sleep, he called his mother, the person he always reached out to when he was struggling. And expecting comfort and support, he got a wake-up call. His mom said, "Well, DJ, what did you expect?" Hearing that from his mom, and the same thing that Cece had told him, it hit him hard, and it finally landed. Well, DJ went back home to Cece and had a real heart-to-heart. He apologized for his absence in the relationship and for confusing providing with connecting. And he asked Cece if she would consider trying again. Cece broke down and cried. She told him that all she had been wanting all along was for him to be around more and to feel an emotional connection in the relationship. Cece ended the affair. They went to couples counseling, and slowly, I might add, through their consistent commitment to grow, their relationship began to thrive again. And of course, the change didn't happen overnight, but the priorities had shifted and the commitment stood strong. Now, DJ and Cece's story reminds us that relationships don't fall apart from the lack of providing. It's from the lack of emotional connection. And healing begins when a man is willing to show up differently. And I see it a lot. It often takes a wake-up call like an affair for him to wake up and do it. And this goes for women too, not just men, okay? Got to make that clear. So what are men being asked to step into now instead of just being the provider? Well, the truth is, it goes back to what I say a lot is the conditioning. Many men were never taught that being a provider is just a role. Being emotionally present is a relationship skill. Modern research shows that partners, regardless of their gender, they value emotional availability, active listening, shared vulnerability, reliability, and follow-through, feeling chosen, not just supported financially. Now, what I'm saying doesn't replace providing, okay? It just expands what it means to be a man in relationship. So if this resonates with you and you want to be more than a provider and get out of that conditioning, here are a few places to start. First thing to do is to redefine your worth. It's understanding that your value isn't just what you earn. It's who you are when things get hard, how you show up. Practice being present emotionally. And I know it's hard for a lot of us guys, but be home emotionally, not just physically. And lead with a sense of curiosity, not just responsibility. It's like asking your partner, "How are you really doing?" And stay long enough to hear the answer and make sure your partner feels seen and heard. And another thing is to invest in your connection, not just financial comfort. Yeah, man, security isn't just financial. It's about creating emotional safety in the relationship. something I talk about a lot. All right. And I want to say, do the inner work you need to do to grow and be a better version of yourself. Because when your identity is flexible, your relationship becomes more resilient. And that was the lesson I had to learn. Because I was so caught up in having to be that provider that I lost a sense of myself. And knowing that I can still provide, maybe not be the main provider at that time, but I could bring other things to the relationship. And let's face it, the way things are today, it's pretty much a necessity that both partners have to provide and work. And when the goal is partnership, it's not about who earns more. It's about how you support each other in ways that actually serve the relationship. We're talking teamwork here, collaboration, not keeping score and having to be the main breadwinner and all that. That's your ego. Let it go. Go for teamwork, man. Go for collaboration for the long term of your relationship. What I want you to take away from this is being the provider can build a life, okay? But being emotionally available builds a relationship. And listen, again, men are not asked to give up their strength or their masculinity. They're being asked to add to it. And I get it. And I hope you do too. All right, my quote of the week comes from the author of the book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, Robert Glover. He says, quote, "Many men believe their value comes from what they give or provide rather than who they are." Unquote. Yeah, and when a man believes his worth is only what he provides, he may never realize how deeply he's needed simply for who he is. Think about that. And that will bring this episode to an end. The More Than a Paycheck, Why Being the Provider Isn't Enough Anymore episode. I'm Bill Simpson, your host. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Now, if this episode resonated with you and you're ready to redefine your role, not just as a provider, but as a partner, I invite you to check out my website, menonthepathtolove.com. You'll find resources, coaching options, and ways to take the next step on your path to love. Now, coming up on the next Men on the Path to Love podcast, are you someone who's been through a bunch of relationships where you feel like you keep ending up in the same relationship only with a different person? Well, if you're ready to stop repeating patterns and start choosing differently, you don't want to miss this one. Please join me for the Breaking the Cycle, Why You Keep Choosing the Same Relationship episode. And if you found this episode helpful, or you know someone who needs to hear it, please share the link and share the love. And until next time, keep your heart open and stay on the path to love.